a bombshell new lawsuit that involves Sean Diddy Combs, but isn't against the disgraced music mogul. As Diddy is listening to closing arguments in his sex trafficking and racketeering trial in federal court in New York, his son, Justin, has been hit with a lawsuit by a woman who claims that he lured her to Los Angeles to be raped by multiple men, including his dad, Sean Diddy Combs. Now, this isn't the first time that Justin has been named in a lawsuit with his famous father.
Diddy completely lost it in court after brand new evidence came out connecting his own son to the shocking and disturbing freak-off events that have been at the center of these explosive allegations. This wasn't just a legal bombshell. This was personal. This was devastating. This was the kind of revelation that hits deeper than a scandal.
About the timing of this new lawsuit involving the son of Sean Diddy Combs. It was just in the hours after the government on Thursday finished their closing arguments in the case against the disgraced music mogul that we learned about this new lawsuit against Sean Combs' son, Justin. Justin is one of Diddy's 7 kids. Here he is with his dad's arm around his shoulder. Justin has been in court supporting his dad just as his siblings have been over the past 7 weeks of testimony. Now, listen, whatever your feelings are on Sean Combs and whether you think he's guilty of the charges that could put him in federal prison for the rest of his life, you just have to think how difficult it must be to hear about all the sexual exploits of their father. But if you believe the allegations I'm about to tell you in this new lawsuit brought against Justin Combs, Justin apparently was very aware of his dad's lifestyle. The new lawsuit that just dropped was filed by a woman from Louisiana who says in 2017, Justin Combs coaxed her to come to LA because she says that Diddy's son promised her a job in the entertainment industry. She claims the two had met on Snapchat, and Justin allegedly asked for explicit pictures, and she sent them. The woman, who's not named in this suit, says when she got to LA, she was raped by several men, including a certain music mogul now at the center of this high-profile, historic trial in federal court in Lower Manhattan. Yes, Sean Diddy Combs. The alleged victim claims that Justin invited her out west for a weekend to talk about her career. But when she got there, she says she was kept in a house in Beverly Hills. And according to the lawsuit, things seemed fine at first, but when she allegedly asked Justin Combs if they were going to leave the house, he said no. She claims that Justin Combs offered her alcohol, pills, and weed, and she thinks that the weed was laced. Now, you can see in those allegations some of the comparisons in this lawsuit to the so-called freak-offs that we have been hearing about for weeks at the center of the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking and racketeering trial. The woman says after she took the drugs, 3 men entered the house and all of them were wearing masks. Now, it's unclear what kind of masks the men were wearing, but when I read that part, I thought about the testimony of Sheree Hayes in the Sean Diddy Combs trial, the escort known as the Punisher. He testified that during a freak-off, Sean Combs allegedly wore a face covering that he likened to a Muslim hijab. In the lawsuit against Justin Combs, the alleged victim says that she knew that one of the men was Diddy just because of his mannerisms, but how about this? She also knew it was Diddy because she says that Justin, as his dad, entered the home to allegedly rape a woman that he brought to LA, called Diddy, quote, Pops. Now, we see on Justin's social media that Pops is the phrase that he often uses for his dad. In this lawsuit, the alleged victim claims that she was led to a bedroom where she was allegedly told, quote, you better let this happen or else. Then she says that each man took a turn raping her, calling it a, quote, brutal gang rape. After that, she was taken to an airport on Monday and flown home. Now,
It's the kind that fractures families, shatters legacies, and sends the courtroom into total chaos. People inside that room say the energy shifted the moment the evidence was presented. Diddy's entire demeanor changed. He wasn't just angry. He was panicked. He was furious. He was unraveling in front of everyone. For weeks, the rumors and accusations surrounding Diddy have been piling up. People have come forward, testimonies have been heard, and shocking stories about what went down behind closed doors have rocked the industry. But nothing hit as hard as this. No one expected Diddy's own blood to be pulled into the narrative. According to court records and newly surfaced evidence, Diddy's son was allegedly present during some of the most graphic, disturbing events, what multiple witnesses have described as organized freak-offs. These weren't just wild parties. These were high-control, high-risk environments where young women, Alcohol, drugs, and coercion collided.
His sex trafficking and racketeering trial, there have been nearly 80 lawsuits filed against him in civil court. Many are still active. Several of the lawsuits accuse Diddy of sexual abuse and are filed by people who are not giving their names, just like in this lawsuit that we're talking about. This also isn't the first lawsuit that Justin Combs has recently faced. Justin was named in a suit brought by music producer Rodney Jones, who goes by Little Rod. Rod claims that Diddy coerced him into sexual acts, and you can see the suit also names Justin Combs and accused Justin of covering up a shooting in 2022 at Little Rod's studio in LA with his dad. In May, a judge did dismiss Justin from Little Rod's lawsuit, so he is no longer facing those allegations. As for the lawsuit filed in the hours before his dad's attorneys were to make closing arguments, E! News reports that Diddy's attorneys have denied the allegations, but it's unclear what Justin's response is at the time of this recording. Joining us now is criminal defense attorney Will Corman. Always great to have you on Law and Crime. Thanks for being with us. What stands out to you in this lawsuit that Sean Combs is named, but also his son Justin?
Well, it's interesting. I think the connection to Sean Combs is pretty tenuous. You know, we've gone through this all. It almost seems the one connection to Sean Combs that they actually put on him is the allegation that Justin called one of the masked men Pops during the course of the assault or just before the assault. That's it. The other connection, obviously, is that Sean Combs is Justin Combs' dad. So I think it's a bit of a stretch. Again, we're just receiving these documents now. We're just going through this lawsuit now. Perhaps there's more out there, but it really doesn't seem that way.
And of course, people who are victims of sexual violence, you want them to get their justice. We have seen dozens of lawsuits filed against Justin's dad in the wake of when he was indicted for the trial that he's on right now. How do you go through these lawsuits and understand who's telling the truth and who actually has a case that could be heard in court? Someone like Cassie Ventura, when you see that video from 2016, or you do look at some of these Jane Doe lawsuits and you wonder how many of them are true.
Look, as a criminal defense attorney, it's my job to be cynical, and it's my job to, review everything with a pretty jaundiced eye. So the question really becomes are there corroborating facts and circumstances from Jump Street that make sense? So for example, if this lawsuit is alleging that something happened in LA during a specific period of time, do we know that Sean Combs was there? Do we actually know that he was present in LA? These things aren't difficult to find out, but it's those baby steps to trying to build the foundation of a lawsuit to see what's realistic that really matter in a case like this. And as you so correctly said, we want victims of domestic violence, of sexual violence, and so on and so forth to actually be compensated accordingly.
And now his son is being directly connected to those environments. The evidence presented wasn't vague. It wasn't speculative. It included text messages, time-stamped footage, and travel logs. It placed Diddy's son at specific locations during nights that have already been described in previous testimonies as predatory and deeply disturbing. When the prosecution connected those dots, the courtroom fell into a stunned silence. And Diddy? He broke. People inside said he stood up, shouted at the top of his lungs, and had to be restrained by his legal team. It wasn't just a father losing his temper. It was a man watching everything he tried to keep buried come crashing back, dragging his family into the storm. This isn't just scandalous. It's tragic. Because now the spotlight isn't only on Diddy, it's on his son. And people are asking, was he a witness? Was he a participant? Was he just caught up in something bigger than him? Or was he part of the machine?
To dismiss the RICO allegation because it wasn't properly established the connection between Combs and his, alleged racketeering enterprise or criminal conduct and activity, and Jones allegedly not being paid for his contribution on the Love album. In other words, how was he affected by this alleged racketeering activity? The court said the court cannot identify any such causal link. Defendants' alleged sex, drug, and gun trafficking activities did not foreseeably or naturally preclude defendants from honoring their recording contract with Jones. As we just talked about, the judge also dismissed trafficking claims against the Combs global corporate entity, emotional distress claims against Combs, breach of contract claims. Alexis, does this signify a weakness in the case? Does this signify problems in how it was properly pled by the lawyer in this case? What do you take away from that? Because to have it gutted, as you said, is quite significant before you even get into why the claims against Cuba Gooding Jr. and Justin were dropped. We haven't even talked about that yet.
Looking at it and looking at the order from the court, it does appear to be pleading issues. Also, what was very interesting in that order from the court on the motion to dismiss, the judge, really scolds the plaintiff's attorney. I have not actually seen in a federal order for a motion to dismiss a judge scolding the plaintiff's attorney openly in that manner. So I found that very interesting, where he says blatantly that and actually says that if you continue in this manner, there's going to be sanctions, that the way he pled that complaint, in the judge's opinion, was inappropriate.
Actually, let me pull it up. So Judge Oken told Tyrone Blackburn, okay, so lawyer for Jones, that due to his, quote, unsettling conduct, he was concerned about that, issued a warning. Blackburn's filings are replete with inaccurate statements of law, conclusory accusations, and inappropriate ad hominem attacks on opposing counsel. Yeah, I haven't quite seen that either, and it makes me wonder, you know, we're in the middle of, we're about to start the Sean Combs criminal case. From pretrial filings, it seems to me there might have been a discussion about Rodney Jones being a part of that case, maybe was interviewed by federal prosecutors, but it also seems to me, based on these filings, I'm reading between the tea leaves, that he is not going to be called as a witness, that potentially his claims couldn't be properly verified, that maybe that's why he's not being called. We don't know for sure. I remember reading a filing that said producer one, the defense was talking about producer one. I made the argument could be Rodney Jones, but given the problems in this case, does it seem to you unlikely that he would be called as a witness in Sean Combs' criminal case?
I agree with you, Jesse. And also, I think that they have tons of other witnesses, it appears, that can go and set up and testify to the elements that they need in that case without calling him. It does seem a little loose. And also, we have somebody who is participating. So I agree. I don't think they're going to call him.
Those questions are spiraling across the internet right now. Fans are going back through old interviews, old footage, social media posts, trying to piece together what the public never saw. And what they're finding is making everything even messier. The internet is on fire. Threads are being written by the minute. Clips are going viral showing Diddy and his son together at exclusive events, private functions, and after-parties that now carry an entirely different tone. Moments that once seemed harmless are being re-examined with suspicion and fear. And the fallout is brutal. Supporters who once stood behind Diddy in silence are starting to distance themselves. The loyalty is fading. The protection is vanishing. Even longtime associates are reportedly ghosting him. Because now it's not just about one man's reckless behavior, it's about what his influence exposed his own child to. The legal team tried to object, tried to suppress the evidence, but the judge allowed it. And once it was on record, the media exploded. Headlines rolled out instantly. News outlets jumped on the story. And within hours, the damage had multiplied. The story stopped being about Diddy's personal life and became a full-blown generational scandal. If this goes further, and it looks like it will, his son could face serious questioning. He might have to testify. He might be forced to give his own account of what he saw, what he did, and how much he really knew about what was going on behind those doors. This is a nightmare scenario, not just legally, but emotionally. Because no matter what happens next, Diddy's family name is now cemented in this controversy. The very thing he likely wanted to protect at all costs, his legacy, his bloodline, is now entangled in a web of scandal and shame that might never be undone.
About the predicate acts and what you can and cannot have are very clear case law, which are the judge cited in the order. And the plaintiff's attorney really should have done a little more research to make sure that those acts, but it could have also, not that there's any accusation by me on the plaintiff's attorney, it could have also been made for the news to give it teeth, to get it into federal court. There's various reasons to make that racketeering, cause of action.
So now I want to get into what happened here, okay, with Justin Combs and Cuba Gooding Jr. So again, the judge here, Judge J. Paul Oken, United States District Court Judge for the Southern District of New York, issued an order yesterday. And I'm going to go through it piece by piece. So in the order, the court explains that it granted Jones' previous request for an extension of time to serve Gooding and Justin Combs with the papers in this case, but Jones apparently missed the deadline to serve and then didn't ask for an additional extension. Now, apparently, Jones now is asking the court to serve them in alternative ways by publishing in 2 newspapers. So Alexis, talk to me about that. How does that work exactly? When would it work for you to publish the notices in a newspaper? How does that work?
Well, first of all, this is federal court. So you can't just disregard notices, deadlines, court orders. Federal court is very strict about that, and anything you need to ask ahead of time, not after the fact. So first he got an extension, then he missed the deadline, then he turned around and asked that if he could have permission to alternatively serve them. Now, what's interesting about this is, what is the problem here? I'm not getting, this is just service. You have 90 days initially in federal court. Why didn't he try to follow the procedure? Because we're talking straight procedure. Why wasn't the straight procedure followed to get this service? That's my big question. Now, filing publication, it is a route you can do, but you have to follow the procedure of the initial ways that you're able to serve the defendant prior to seeking alternative service, which, based on the pleadings, was not done.
I'm going back to my civil procedure class back in law school, but I remember it briefly a little bit. But how would it actually work? So you publish your complaint in a newspaper, which newspaper, so that the defendant would see it? Is that how it works exactly?
Well, alternative service, you have to do attempt to do the appropriate service that's listed in the rules of procedure.
Yeah.
So, which they didn't. That's why there was that hearing that showed up where the judge said, first it was a letter, tell me why, what's going on? Why haven't you had this individual served? Then you can seek to do alternative. One alternative is potentially publication. But you have to show good cause for that.
Sure.
And you have to show why the other.
What's worse is that the story's reach is growing. Other witnesses are reportedly preparing to come forward. More names are being mentioned behind the scenes. If even half of them decide to speak up, this could lead to a wave of new subpoenas, deeper investigations, and a massive shakeup within the inner circle of people who once called themselves family, friends, or employees of Diddy. And his son being caught in the crossfire might just be the beginning. The fans are spiraling. Some are devastated. Others are disgusted. Longtime supporters are feeling betrayed. And there's a whole new generation looking at Diddy, not as the music mogul they grew up admiring, but as a symbol of unchecked power and generational toxicity. And whether or not the charges ever reach his son, the damage is done. The narrative is out there. And it's not going away. Diddy's team is scrambling. Crisis PR mode has been activated at the highest level. But the question is, what can they even do at this point? You can't rewrite text messages. You can't erase footage. You can't undo a courtroom meltdown. And you can't silence a public that's already decided that this isn't just entertainment anymore. This is about justice. This is about accountability. This is about holding the powerful responsible, no matter who they are or who they're related to. And people are asking the hardest question of all. How much did Diddy involve his son in this life? Was it negligence? Was it deliberate? Was it just the environment they were all living in? Or was it something far more sinister? A generational cycle of control, secrecy, and silence. No matter the answers, one thing is clear. This case has crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. It's not about fame anymore. It's not about reputation. It's about real consequences. And if more evidence comes out, if more people speak, this story will get even darker before it ever gets resolved. So stay tuned. Because this isn't just another scandal. This is the unraveling of one of the most powerful figures in music history, with his own family caught in the wreckage. And as the courtroom battles continue, and as more revelations come to light, the world will be watching. Every word, every witness, every breakdown, every exposed truth. Let us know what you think. Has Diddy gone too far? Can any legacy survive something like this? And how will this impact the next generation that now finds itself pulled into a storm they may not have asked for, but can no longer escape? Because this is just the beginning, and it's only getting worse from here.